Donny.
Bugamana.
Good day, dear viewers. It all began about 2 years ago with a problem bringing the lawyers and the teachers into the streets in the Northwest region, and it degenerated. 2 years after, we're still talking about bloodshed in the Northwest and the Southwest regions of Cameroon. It's nothing to write home about. But yet we're going to be talking about it in this face-to-face with Barrister Akere, who is one of the influential opposition leaders and equally candidate at the presidentials that will be taking place next 7th of October, 2018. Good day, Barrister.
Good day.
What kind of appraisal can you actually give about the Anglophone crisis today?
Well, listen, I speak to you with a very heavy heart. It is unfortunate that for the very first time in the history of our country, we have Cameroonians taking up arms against Cameroonians. That's sad. And not only that, we are in two sinister regions. We have close to 200,000 internally displaced persons called IDPs. We have close to 40,000 refugees. We have, before holidays, close to 50,000 kids that doesn't go to school. That is sad. That is a national disaster. And I think our government is living in a state of total denial. And so it's sad that every day people are being killed and nobody is taking the decision towards a path that will lead us to peace. And by peace I mean an inclusive dialogue where what hurts our country is discussed openly. And the path to peace is by releasing all political prisoners, stopping all these trials, and stopping the oppression and collective punishment. There's no way you can come up with any humanitarian angle in such a climate. So it's a very sad moment. And it is a tough decision to take to run for president under the circumstances. But I do so under the strong belief that it is part of the solution. We have a government that doesn't listen. We don't want to change the country. We want to change the government. And if we do that, all will be well, I think.
And do you think the government actually has not been doing anything up to date to try to remedy the situation? Because we are talking about reconciliation, that people want actually to be a solution, a major solution, and equally dialogue to come into play. Mm-hmm. But it seems like our political leaders, the powers that may be, are really not doing much to do that. What do you think about that?
Well, I think they're just like a headless chicken, a rudderless ship. They don't know they don't really know what they should do. They're confused, and they now rely on oppression. They react, and it is sad because the path we are on now is definitely the path towards peace. Fighting and killing, it's not the path towards peace. People are taken hostage.
It looks like it's degenerating, and some people actually think that the international community is making things worse, and certainly is even financing some of these things that are happening. Is it too dangerous or too delicate to think that way?
Well, I don't see what an international community will have to gain by financing this. I think it's a Cameroonian reflex to blame others for our own failures. I think it is about us. But on the other hand, I think that we have gone beyond the level where any mediation can be by face-to-face dialogue. We need a third party, a friendly country, an international organization. But for anything to happen, we need trust. And that trust has been wasted away. Nobody trusts the government. Nobody.
You are a Cameroonian, and many Cameroonians can depend on and that can count on as president of the republic for the next mandate. And equally, I would say you're a proud son of the soil from the Northwest region. What exactly, if you are elected as president on the 7th of October, would you bring as possible solution to try to curb this crisis rocking the nation?
If I'm elected, when I'll be elected?
When you'll be elected.
Okay. The first thing is to solve this crisis. The first thing is to bring peace to our nation. And that goes through inclusive dialogue, release of prisoners, and an end to all these trials. And a national dialogue with the help of international organizations. That will help us bring dialogue, bring our people back from 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 being
The
refugees,
refugees.
yeah, and help those who are willing to settle. And you need to involve the communities themselves. You need to make sure the religious communities are involved. Let me give you a simple example. I was looking at the humanitarian plan. In there, they have 200 million to be spent by the committees managing this. What is the job of the government? Why do they have to go in the money for
A kind of
humanitarian?
controversial
Yeah,
humanitarian
yeah,
relief plan.
yeah. Of course, it's a controversial plan, but they want to go in there to take money to pay those who manage the process. Why does the government not manage the money on the people? Firstly, they want to do a lot of procurement. Is it not easier to go maybe to Kembong and say, did you have somebody who sold cement here? Did you have somebody who sold soap here? Did you have somebody who sold blankets? Man, we are going to get your store going again. So you can supply the people. So it has to be a plan that involves the people themselves. It's not this thing of preface and people coming from outside on a Sunday with 4x4s and handing out soap and blankets.
And we have realized equally in your campaign policy that you have decided to get to take proximity really important and equally involve women and children in it.
That's correct, yes.
And what exactly spurs you?
Well, because I just told some of your colleagues that there's a quality that women have that is intuitive and inborn. You see, to give birth to a child, you must have hope for the future.
Exactly.
Not only to have hope for the future, you must want your child to live in a better world. Otherwise, there's no point having a child. So women basically are optimists and they're people who will fight for a better future because they have a stake in it. A stake of somebody they carried in their womb for 9 months. And that's heavy. We men don't have that advantage. So if you involve more women in politics, you get them to positions where they can help us move ahead, then you are guaranteeing the fact that a hopeful future will be built. So for the youth as well, they have a stake in the future, more than myself. So if you involve the youth, they would make sure. Look at Barack Obama. He's now a retired president. He had to make sure that, when I leave the White House, I can go about in my country in peace. So the youth and the women have the kind of stake in the future that men don't have. But we are in a society which is built by men, for men, with men. It's not possible that a country like Cameroon, which is reputed of having all sorts of experts, has one single female ambassador. While the United Nations has named the youngest secretary at the Economic Commission for Africa,
Exactly.
brilliant Vera Songwe, in Addis, the first lady and the first person of that age, and a brilliant person all over the world. So I really think that, we in this country have to build a country which is for the people, not for ourselves. That's what's killing us.
And the new republic actually is going to be based on 3 pillars, like you have been telling us. What are those pillars?
The pillars are social justice. And really, it is a theory that is even quasi-religious, You see, it's justice, education, and health. These 3 sectors, if they are working well, then you're sure that you're serving the poor of the poorest. So, you want to get those right, bring in social justice, make sure you have the infrastructure, make sure the agricultural sector is looked at in such a way that the value added that people get for their crops. I mean, the population of the diaspora has increased to the extent where the demand for the food crops that we have is so high. It's so high. And we have Nigerians and Chinese and other people benefiting from that niche. And that should be a point of convergence between the diaspora and ourselves to help the people here to be able to go into cooperatives and link up with our own people there so we can market our goods. The government does nothing to make the life of the people better.
So before we say goodbye to each other, I would like you to say a word to that electorate that find themselves lost in bushes, who have not probably had the opportunity to get registered on voters list, who might not be having voters cards because of the situation prevailing in those regions of Cameroon, the northwest and the southwest
Well,
region.
what I want to tell them is that my heart bleeds for their suffering, really, and I say this, I don't take it lightly. And in many ways, their suffering is what is motivating me to run for office. I hope that Elekam will see a way to make sure that those who are displaced and who are willing and have their cards to vote are allowed to vote. Arrangements, alternate arrangements, they can vote away from the voting centers in which they are. We had that in Mali, where they had the problem of displaced people, and arrangements were made for them to vote elsewhere. So I hope that can be done. But really, for them, I tell them, we're praying with them, they should take heart, because in November, their suffering will be over.
Thank you very much, Barrister
Thank you
Akere
very
Binam.
much.